Welcome back, JK Q&A. We are doing the second volume, and this is part 2 of the WildStar edition. So I have a bunch of questions. Last time I probably talked way too much about explaining things, but this is really fun to see these questions and to try and help you guys out and answer these as best I can. So here we go. Let's dive back into it. So these are all taken from Twitter, a Twitter question I threw out there a week or so ago. Tails says, did you use any other music or media as reference for the direction of the soundtrack? What were your inspirations? Yes, I did. Heavily. I'm always inspired by something, and I talked a lot about it in the last video. But some big influences were, just to recap, the Cowboys and Aliens soundtrack. Not a great movie, but a pretty great soundtrack, I thought. I thought Pacific Rim, when that came out, I was kind of obsessed with that for a little bit. Electric guitar lead with the string arrangement behind it and how that all worked, I thought it was great. The Oblivion soundtrack, the Tom Cruise movie, and kind of M83 in general, there was just some great synth and warm storytelling kind of synthesizers, pads, and things like that that really fill out that score and M83 stuff in general. So I thought that was pretty great. But also as sort of a constant source of inspiration from when I was a kid, Alan Silvestri. He probably makes the most impact on me. I love the way he writes for brass, particularly. I love he still writes thematically, which is a huge deal for me. I didn't want WildStar to be, texture and ambience. I think there's a time and a place for that. But I'm really proud of the fact that we were able to use thematic material and record melodies for people, and we took a big risk because it's an MMO and you're going to spend a lot of time in these areas. Somehow we were able to write music and capture performances that have melodies and melodic content, but doesn't get super repetitive upon multiple listening. So and I think part of that is the way it's written, but also I think part of it is the listener. So some people may find it incredibly repetitive, and some people don't. But for whatever reason, I think we got a lot of great comments about how people that are playing WildStar are keeping the music on longer than other games they would normally play, which always made me feel super good. Okay, Jake says, I saw a lot of what's your favorite track questions. I'll ask instead, what is your least favorite track? I'm sure this is difficult to answer, so if it ends up being unanswerable, I'll ask instead, what track did you have the most difficult time with? Yes, it's kind of hard to answer. I would say the thing that was my least favorite, and part of it was the music I wrote, and part of it was just the overall system, was the battle music. Holdout music for those holdout moments, and if you were a soldier doing those things, and then just sort of we had these different battle layers that would get called when you went into battle, and it just never really worked. We didn't have the time to really flesh out the system, and it always kind of made me feel icky that I couldn't fine tune it the way I wanted to. I didn't enjoy that part. I think the music could have been better, and I think we could have implemented it a lot better had we had time and resources dedicated to that. So that's probably where I fall on that one. Okay, Tom says, is there anything in the planned content post that you particularly wish you could have worked on the music for? I'm assuming you mean planned content post, like the things that we were going to release that we never got to because we shut down the game or we stopped making content for it. I think I'm assuming it's what you mean. And yeah, there's a couple zones I was really looking forward to. Murkmire, we never really got around to that. And I was really hoping to do more with Drusera. I was hoping to do more with her theme and with these moments as a player and exploring, and I felt like we never really were able to do that. We put a bow on it to some extent, but I would have loved to worked with her music more and her theme more, and really done some targeted content that was a little bit more intimate. You as a player and really really interacting with Drusera and all that. So there were some zones and some themes that I would like to played with that we never got around to. Next, Jack Diamond. Great name, Jack Diamond. I feel like I should be reading a novel about Jack Diamond and the adventure of... All right, am I crazy, or does a Golden Field Exile House music sound like Depeche Mode? Yeah, I guess a little bit. Here's a funny thing about... I did notice some of these when I was going through Twitter, seeing these responses. So something crazy happened early on YouTube. Someone posted a bunch of the music, and they just came up with their own names for these things. And then articles and fans and people started taking these names as like the legitimate names of these things. And I tried to go on to these YouTube links and correct this person as much as I could. But there's obviously a lot of cues in this game, a lot of pieces of music, and I didn't keep up with it. So I've never called the Exile House music a Golden Field. That was from, I'm assuming, I think this YouTube channel that kind of came up with their own names for everything, which, you know, admirably is a lot of work to come up with all these names for these cues. So well done. But they're not mine, and I wouldn't necessarily agree with some of these names. But yes. So with the Exile House music, I wanted to take their theme, but also make it sort of a little bit more, I don't know, not campy, because that's not really the right word, but I wanted to sort of modernize it in a sense where it could be something that's, if there was a radio playing in your housing plot, it would sound like something that might come on WildStar Radio. and so yes, and I love Depeche Mode, so you could definitely hear some of that in there. Okay, moving on. Bitter Blossom says, not a question, just want to say you did a great job, a very, very, very great job. Oh, well, thank you, Bitter Blossom. I appreciate that. I tell you what, over the years, the WildStar fans have been so kind and so awesome. So I definitely appreciate that, and I know a lot of the developers do as well. It was a great community, and still is. Chaos says, are you mad like the rest of us that they stopped selling WildStar OST everywhere online? Yeah, that was tough. I found out about it from Twitter. Someone had contacted me and said, hey, it's not on Spotify anymore. And I was like, what? And so sure enough, I looked, and it wasn't on iTunes, and it wasn't on Amazon. And so I did some digging, and yeah, it's very frustrating. The whole thing is sort of a frustrating situation. But basically, just to set the record straight and get the story out there, completely beyond my control. But the record company was called Something Else Music, and they were the ones that put out the first 2 volumes of WildStar. And they had a contractual agreement with NCSoft to license the rights from NCSoft to release the music, which is awesome, and everyone seemed to enjoy it. Until earlier this year, Something Else Music went out of business, and they apparently attempted to reach NCSoft and say, hey, we're going out of business. But some people from Something Else Music were going to start a new company for doing soundtracks. And in a letter, apparently, allegedly, from what I heard, they said the contract will be null and void once we shut down as a company, but there's going to be a new company starting with some people. And if you'd like to keep everything going and continue on with them, we'll set up a new contract. Or NCSoft could have reworked the deal with anyone, actually. But for whatever reason, NCSoft, I got an email from NCSoft saying that they were not interested in pursuing keeping the WildStar soundtrack available at this time. So not much I can say to that. Yes, it's frustrating and it's sad, and I wish we could have just kept it somewhere safe, but the world is in a perfect place. Screws fall out all the time. You know what that's from? Comment below if you know what that's from. I never got to do that for a little thing. Oh, speaking of, a quick timeout. Look at, okay. I'll figure this out how to do this in a proper way, but I just want to let you know I want to do some giveaways, and I have some things that I want to be giving away, and I have them right here, a couple things. So look at, I have these cool shot glasses that Carbine had got made up for employees, and so I thought those would be great giveaways. These are Melgrave. That's pretty cool. You see the little guys on there. So those would be cool giveaways. I like those. And then I also have this is a cool pint glass. You can see the Chua on there with all the little workings. So that's pretty cool. And then I also have I have a bunch of scores. Now you may have seen those flying around social media, but I still do have a bunch more scores that I can sign and give away of the main theme and some other things. So we'll figure out how to give those things away. But I wanted to tease you, let you know that if you stick with me and stick with these videos, hopefully you get a chance to win some cool stuff. Okay, moving on. Martin Lindsay says, there is the OST and then there are other sounds. Were you involved in the sound effects as well? Yes, actually I was hired on back in 2008. October 2008 was my first day at Carbine, October 1st, 2008. And I was hired on as a sound designer. So I wasn't the composer initially. I was a sound designer for a couple years. And then during that time, it was before WildStar was even WildStar, right? It was still very conceptual. And we were working on all different kinds of just ideas and just seeing kind of what stuck. But I had done some voice processing, and I had done a bunch of sound design for ambient environments and for machines and robots and things like that. And some of that made it in the game, and some of it did not. So pretty much all the sound design in Red Moon Terror I had done, because at that point I was kind of the last man standing in the audio department. I had done some of the pets and mounts as well, but we had a great sound design team throughout the whole history of Carbine. So once I moved into the composition, the composer role, I was the only composer there. We did have a couple pieces of music written by David Gilbreth, who was a sound designer who also really loved music, and he did a couple pieces. For the most part, I was the only composer on the project, and we had a team of it varied, I guess, between 4, 5, 6 sound designers, and just some really talented people. They did a great job, and it was fun to work with. We had a great time. So, yeah. All right, so that's a great place to stop for this time. We're going to come back again with part 3. Man, I'm only at 10 questions down. I still got plenty more to go. So stick around. Come back next time for part 3. And I'll probably be wearing the same shirt because I'm trying to record all these at once. All right, we'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. The Levy and Bay. It says Levy and Bay. And this is my idea of Levy and Bay. And I wrote it out here with the little changes over the top, the chord changes, but here's the melody. Levy and Bay, I thought it'd be cool to go bum 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 bum. I thought that'd be good for Levy and Bay.